Hi, I'm Morgan Stribler, creator of the Liquid Metal Routine. I'd like to thank you for purchasing Liquid Forks. They're the best forks on the market for bending metal. You can buy them at worldmagicshop.com. I'm going to turn it over now to my good friend David Penn, and he's going to teach you at home an awesome metal routine.
Hi everyone, this is David Penn from World Magic Shop, and I'm going to introduce you to the new Liquid Forks, the official forks of Morgan Strebler, who's just brought out his recent and newly created routine, Liquid Killer. Go and check that out. This is the free download that comes with the Liquid Forks, and it's called the Liquid Forks routine, which is a little bit of a mixture of myself, Morgan, Jerry, Banachek, and D. Christopher. You will find that these new forks are being treated a slightly different way. So if you had the old Liquid Forks, you'll find that these are a little bit harder to bend, and your technique needs to be spot on, especially when you're twisting the handle of the fork. If you perform the routine regularly, you'll know that this is one of the strongest parts of the routine because the spectators cannot bend it back. You need to make sure that when you've bent the fork in preparation for doing the twist on the handle, you need to make sure that you don't go any further than this. So it's kind of like just beyond 90 degrees. And this means that if you don't go beyond this when you're performing that optical bend like so, the technique will be easier to put the bend in the handle. So that is my little tip when using these stronger, harder forks. But because of the heat treating, the process that they've gone through, it means that they are nigh on impossible to bend back. But you will still be able to put a twist, a complete twist, in the handle of that fork. So once again, just to make this really clear, with the new liquid metal forks, still individually wrapped as they were before, you need to make absolutely sure that when you put that bend in, you don't go beyond this. And then, just like you did before, you need to make sure that you've got a good grip here, a good grip here, and you're straightening the fork out in front of your spectators, and that twist will go into the handle just like it did before. You'll find that it takes a little bit more effort, but once it's in there, there is no way that this is coming out at all. And as for the standard bends, those standard tine bends, this fork is absolutely brilliant because these even feel like they cannot bend, and yet with only a little bit more effort, 20% more effort or something like that, you'll be able to perform the effect just like you did before. But it is impossible now to bend the fork back under normal conditions without a high amount of force from your spectator. So I just wanted to go over that before you see the techniques in action in the full Liquid Forks routine. I can't stress this enough. Make sure when you're using the forks and you bend, put that initial bend in, only go beyond the 90 degrees. And when it's just over the 90 degrees, you'll be able to put that twist in the handle every single time using the same techniques that are already explained on this download. Enjoy the new Liquid Forks. Liquid Forks has to be one of the best routines to perform in a close-up environment. It's absolutely perfect for a gala dinner situation. The magic happens up in the air away from the tabletop, and it's so visual. And at the end of the routine, you get to give somebody an unbelievable souvenir. During this instructional DVD or download, I'll be taking you through every single bend that you need to learn to perform one of the best close-up metal bending routines of all time. First of all, Liquid Forks, absolutely perfect. These are the ones that you're going to need, especially to perform the main twist of the fork, which I will be going into very shortly. When I go up to the table, I always get the fork signed, There's a reason for this. It actually adds to the magic later on when the fork becomes twisted. So I get it signed just here, so I'll just put my initials on this side, and I get them to turn it over and put a random number on the other side. This will highlight the twist later. It also gets people involved very early in the routine. Then, another psychological technique to get people's attention at the table, I actually say this is an optical illusion, and I bang the table. At the very end of the instructional download, you'll see me performing this in a sort of guerrilla video of me at a live event. You'll see how it goes down. The banging helps to get people's attention, and I say this is an optical illusion. I then bring my knee onto the table. I say, not that, that's real. Just a little joke. It's not a big belly laugh, it's just a little aside there. And then I perform the first bend. Another tip as well, by putting your knee on the table, you're actually doing something weird, which makes people look at you. And again, in a live performance situation, you need to create that interest. It also elevates the performance of the trick. Rather than doing it on the table below any decorations or anything like that, you're elevating the whole thing by about 8 inches. I will then perform the first bend and restore the fork straight away. It looks pretty cool. I'll demonstrate this for you right now. It's just a thing that grabs their attention. I'll show you on the tabletop. All you do is hold the fork between your little finger and your third finger. Your thumb is used to steady it. This hand really just provides cover. But what's happening is you're just letting that fork slip down, and at the same time you imagine that you're pushing with your thumb and pushing forward. So what you get is the optical illusion that the fork is in fact bending. To restore it, you bring it up, twist it, and highlight the fact that there's no damage. It's just an illusion. That's the first bend, guys. It's as easy as that. Let's move on now to the first time bend. So for the first time bend, you've actually got a nice moment of misdirection there. You've got a relaxation point. You've done this optical bend. They've gone, whoa, nothing happened. That gives you all the misdirection you need to put in the time bend. All you do is grip the fork. You're supporting the handle of the fork with the fingers of my right hand. You can reverse this if you were left-handed, obviously. And as you bring it up to display the fork, you put the bend in this action. So as you're doing this in very slow motion, what happens is you push here as you're coming up here, and then you display the fork in this position. This is a subtlety of mine, this display, which I first published on my lecture DVD. It's about 8 years ago now, David Penn, the lecture, and I explained this in front of, I think I was on the Great Wall of China while I was explaining it. But you get a very nice display here that seems really fair because you're showing the fork after you've done that first bend on your leg, nothing's happened, and you get to display it. In reality, behind the fan of fingers, which are apparently showing the fork openly, you've got that tine already bent. So if I just do that again, I'll show you in real time. You're here, you've done the initial bend, you bring it up and display it. In real time, you can't see anything, and even if they did see anything, if they check back, they can confirm that nothing has happened. It's then at this point, you can bring the fork dead on, straight on to their eye line and perform the first time bend. And you've got to get the angles as close to dead on as possible, and you tip it forward like this. And you get the illusion that it actually bends, that first time bend in front of them. Now there's lots of DVDs, I will be recommending quite a few during the course of this download. One you really want to check out, guys, is called Psychokinetic Silverware or Psychonetic Silverware. I'm not really sure how it's actually pronounced, but it's by Jerry and Banachek. This was one of the first DVDs I ever got on this subject of metal bending. Banachek especially has some great moves. But let's move on now to the very next bend. Wow, you're ready now for an awesome bend. It's going to look fantastic to people in a gala dinner situation. Their heads, their eye line is at the optimum level. And even when you've got that fork, they're going to see it bend right in front of them. This is a move that's credited to my good friend Dee Christopher. And guys, you really do need to check out his DVD Metal. The stuff on that DVD is unbelievable. Dee has this thing where he just gives somebody a free choice of one fork or another fork. They choose one and he completely just destroys that fork in front of them. It is one of the best DVDs ever on the subject of fork bending and metal bending. You have to get this DVD. This is one of Dee's optical bends. I'll take you through what happens here. It's important to realise that when I perform it, once again I create a nice moment of relaxation. How I do that is I get them to touch the fork and I say there's a little bit of electricity left in there. And when they feel it, I go zzz, like this, like they've had some sort of shock. It sounds silly, but it gets a nice sort of titter laugh when you're at the table. So you go like this. Zzz. In this position, I perform a standard bend. But you do it as you take your hands to the side. So the bigger action covers the smaller action. But all I'm doing in that action is pushing down the thumb here and the little finger, the base of the little finger supports the fork, and with my first and second finger I'm pushing down and I put a bend in the fork. This happens very, very quickly though, as I go to the side like this and kind of open my arms up. But you put the bend in. You immediately come up to that optimum eye level position and you block everything on this side with your fingers. To everybody else, the fork handle looks just the same. It looks like it's going out. And all you're going to do as you gesture this way is move that fork handle round, and you will create the illusion that it is bending before their eyes. And remember, when you're doing this, believe that you're doing it, concentrate, and you're going to look like some kind of X-Men there as it goes right the way round. Now, Morgan Strebler introduced this routine. Morgan Strebler has his fantastic DVD Liquid Metal and also Liquid Metal 2.0, where he features the destruction, and I mean the complete destruction of a fork. But I do want to mention on Morgan's DVD, he has another handling for this first bend where he waves it literally in front of their eyes and they see that fork drop down. I'm not joking, it looks incredible, guys. The fork in front of their eyes seems to go from this position down to this position just as he's turning it in front of their eyes, just as he's moving it and massaging it with his fingers. You need to check out Morgan's DVD, Liquid Metal by Penguin Magic or Liquid Metal 2.0 by Illusionist, both stocked by worldmagicshop.com. Fantastic DVDs. So that's the next bend. That's the optical bend. Here's why liquid forks are fantastic. The design of these forks is absolutely perfect for putting a twist in the handle of the fork. So once you've done the optical bend, you're going to put a twist in. Now, prior to doing that, you need to make sure that the handle is bent all the way round. Sometimes to do that, I will use an optical bend, another optical bend, and I will rub just here. And as I'm rubbing, all you do is just tip that fork handle back a little bit further. And it just creates the illusion that it's bending a little bit more. And as you bring it up to display it, you actually push the fork tines and the handles together a little bit more. So you've got that, they see it bending a little bit more, and it comes up to here. This means that in this position, I can put the twist in easily. The twist is credited to Banachek, Steve Shaw, and once again is one part of the fantastic Psychokinetic Silverware DVD. Well worth a purchase, guys. When you're in this position, you put the twist in under the guise of straightening the fork. In actual fact, what you're going to do rather than straighten the fork is hold on to that handle, hold on to the fork tines here, and you're going to twist outwards. The fact that the fork handle is already bent fully round makes this a lot easier. But from this position, you're going to go like this. And I can't stress enough the fact that you've got some liquid forks right now. It makes that a lot easier. You want to try doing that with a Nando's fork. It's not going to happen. The amazing thing is about this as well, you can't twist it back afterwards. You'll see very shortly during my routine that I ask somebody to hold their hand up like they're stopping traffic. It's at that moment I straighten out the fork. Really, I'm putting the twist in. It goes into their hand and I twist it around in their hands. What you can do at this point is then ask them to hold it even tighter, and something I do is just revolve my fingers like this. This isn't actually moving, but I will do one extra twist as if I've just twisted it round without this end moving. And I say to them, can you see your initials? Can you see your name? They'll say yes. And I'll say, can you see the number? They say yes. And then you can state that they're on the same side. There's a moment of confusion there before you ask them to open their hands, you reveal it and show that the fork has twisted completely around. Okay, we're gonna destroy them now. And this is all down to Morgan Strebler. Wow. He has created one of the most unbelievable moves in a metal bender's repertoire. The fan of the tines. Guys, you've got to get Morgan's DVD. His stuff is unbelievable, especially that Destruction, which I saw performed live at the FISM Magic Convention many years ago. I couldn't believe it when I saw this fort literally falling apart in front of me. Absolutely unbelievable stuff. The fan, which Morgan has given us very kind permission to explain, it goes from kind of saying how people think the trick is done, and under this moment of relaxation where you're just chatting to members of the audience, you're going to get ready to blow their minds. So what I say is I say it's bent here. As I say it's bent here, if I've done the time bend and it's not too extreme, I will bend it a little bit further at this stage, but I don't draw attention to it. So I say it's bent here. In that action I do bend it a little bit further, more round to closer to 90 degrees from the rest of the tines. I say it's twisted here. When I do this, people say I've got a laser beam in my belt. This is a line of Morgan's that I've seen many years ago. I've got a laser beam in my belt. This ends up with a very dismissive sort of body language position like, that's crazy, nothing's happening. Then, things up my sleeve. As you gesture and show that there's nothing up your sleeve and you pull your sleeve, you put in another time bend at this point. So what's happening is as you pull your sleeve up, you push with your thumb and push that tine even further. So it's now almost 180 degrees to the other tine which is sticking out. This happens in the action of pushing your hand forward. You immediately come back to here and display it. Great subtlety going on here. It looks like you're just displaying the fork as it was before, but in fact you're hiding that tine which is coming straight out at the bottom, right here. It's then as you bring it up to wave it and display it, as you bring it up, you use your thumb once again to push down on the third tine, but not as far this time. So it stops about there. But that happens in the action of just bringing it up and starting to wave it. And when you wave it, they can't actually see what's going on. In fact, they'll convince themselves that they can only see one tine bent at this point. You can then stop and reveal it, or make some sort of gesture with your hand, which I've done before, which simulates what's happened here, as if it's under your control. You can say, there's one, there's two, there's three, that's all 4 tines, all bent. And just to wrap up this demonstration, what I tend to do is do one more optical bend as I hand it over to the spectator. So I'll say, it's bent in all 4 places. As I go over, I'll put a little bend in once again, like this. I'll bring it back and I'll rub it and just use that optical bend technique one more time, just to create another bend. As I say, some people think there's something funny about the fork. If there was, you wouldn't be able to keep it as a souvenir of today's performance. I then clap and open my hands out, and this is an instant applause cue. Now, just for a studio performance, guys, I'll go through all those moves again, and you can see exactly how they flow. So they get the fork signed, first of all. It's numbered. This is an optical illusion. Not that, that's real. You see, it looks like I bend it, even when I don't actually bend it. This is different. What I do is think ENDB, ENDB. Psychologically, your mind rearranges the letters and you get a bend like that. There's a little bit of electricity left in there. Can you feel that? Zzz. Sorry. You'll actually see it bend right in front of you. It bends a little bit further. There's no chemicals on my fingers, but as I rub, it goes even further. The gentleman there, could you hold your hand out? Could you place it inside your hand, let it twist? Now hold it tighter. Can you see your name? Can you see the number? They're on the same side. See, it's actually twisted around like a corkscrew. You can't twist it back, you really can't. It's bent here, twisted here. People say I've got a laser beam in my belt, things up my sleeve. I don't. All I do, I just think ENDB, and if you watch, every single one of the tines bends. I know what you're thinking, there's something funny about that fork. If there was, you wouldn't be able to keep it as a souvenir of today's performance. And that is the Liquid Forks routine, guys. If you enjoyed this, you really need to research all the other DVDs that I've mentioned. Psychonetic Silverware by Jerry and Banachek, Metal by Dee Christopher, Liquid Metal and Liquid Metal 2.0 by my good friend Morgan Strebler, that I'm very pleased to say has endorsed this little project, us teaching you the Liquid Forks routine. If you enjoy metal bending and you want to expand your techniques, please check out a little project of mine called Coinvex. It's a signed coin bend. Borrowed coins which are signed bend in the hands of the spectator. It really is an awesome metal bending routine, and if you ever see me at a convention, guys, I'd love to show it to you. I'm David Penn for WorldMagicShop.com. Take care.
Your name on the fork, so if you see it again, you'll recognise it. On the opposite side, write any random number just there. Just put your pin number. This is an optical illusion. See how it looks like I bent it? This is different. I think ENDB again. Bend. There's a little bit of electricity left in there. Can you watch? About 90 degrees when I rub, it goes further. Still side, still number.
Hi guys, I'm David Penn and this is Coinvex 3rd generation. For Coinvex 3rd generation, the gimmick has been completely redesigned so it now comfortably fits on both sides of the Sharpie. The DVD also features my double coin bend routine. The first coin bends in the hands of the spectator, and then with a couple of optical bends, they see it bending even further at your fingertips. Finally, a coin which is isolated under their own hand bends. Both coins can be kept by the spectator. I'm David Penn and this is Coinvex 3rd generation.